we starting with first?
We start from two. With position number 10 and 11, Mr. Orlando Hollis.
Yes, I could have been a little bit better former. Welcome to the state all-purpose calendar. All right, 10 and 11. Is it private counsel or no? Who's
Yes, Your
Dwayne?
Honor, David.
David Bass. All right, 10 is 23 CR 001818A, and 11 is 23 CR 007131A. And these are both pleas.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. All right. State, go ahead.
And Your Honor, which position is this?
10 and 11. Ontario Hollis.
Received. Thank you. So for position 10, the state's recommendation on the family violence battery is 12 months served, 180 days. Credit for time served 3 days. That's from March 26th to March 28th of 2023. Balance probated, no further contact with Rebecca Patterson. Family Violence Intervention Program, and no firearms. That's a global recommendation with position 11. Position 11 on the theft of lost or mislaid property. Count 1 is 12 months consecutive to 23 CR 001818A. The credit for time served from 3 days from November 17th to November 19th, 2023, an anti-theft course, and 40 hours of community service. Count 2 is 12 months probation concurrent with count 1, $500 fine, and 6 months license suspension. Count 3, the failure to obey signs or traffic control devices, is time served, and that would be the 3 days from 11/17 to 11/19 of 2023. And count 4, possession of marijuana less than an ounce, we are entering a null cross. That's a total of 24 months served, 180 days, credit for time served 3 days, no further contact with Rebecca Patterson, Family Violence Intervention Program, no firearms, 40 hours of community service, an anti-theft course, a $500 fine, and 6 months of license suspension. We would at this time like to sound for Rebecca Patterson, and we do ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and identification for the purposes of the plea.
All right. Can't hear you, Mr. Bass. Mr. Bass? We cannot hear you, Mr. Bass. Can you hear him?
I cannot.
Deputy Falk?
I cannot, Your Honor.
We could hear you at the beginning. Your audio has...
It looks like his video is frozen, Your Honor.
Oh, he may be, okay. Mr. Bass, you need to sign out and come back in. Yeah, he hasn't moved, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Casey, you may have to kick him out and then he'll... Okay, there he goes. And I see Miss Patterson there. There he comes. Okay. All right, Mr. Bass, Attorney Bass, we'll try this again. Let's see if we can hear you. Can you unmute yourself? Still can't hear you. See your lips moving. You're still on mute. Cannot hear you.
Your Honor, I'm sending a request to ask him to unmute, but he's not unmuting.
Right, that's on him.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bass, can you unmute yourself? I was getting ready to say, do you want to chat to him? Will he pay that any attention? He keeps trying to talk.
I'll chat him, Your Honor.
Okay.
Judge, do you mind asking Ms. Falk, what are the time served, time for count 3?
Deputy Falk, on count 3.
Right, that's the 3 days that I cited earlier from 11/17 to 11/19 of 2023.
Okay, she got it, making sure. Mr. Bass is just talking up a storm, but we can't hear anything.
And I sent him a chat, Your Honor.
Send him a chat, okay?
I'll kick him out again so he can come back.
Yeah, we tried that. Do you have a phone number, C1 for him? Maybe we can call him. I don't know, he may not answer the phone because he'll probably think that's someone else calling. We cannot hear you. Unmute. Their button. Trying to do something.
Your Honor, we can go to another case.
Let's do that. Usually I don't get attorneys not knowing how to work. Maybe he's just in a bad spot. I don't know, but it looks like he's on mute and he doesn't know how to unmute himself. Sorry, Ms. Patterson, hold on a second. We'll see if we can get this working. We may take a plea and then come back to you, okay?
Okay. We can go to position number 44 and 45, Mr. Warner.
Okay. 34, 35, okay.
44 and 45.
Okay. This is 24 FTA 0016669. Is it Tyvion Ray, FTA, and then 35, 23 CR 007649C, theft by shoplifting? And this is going,
I apologize.
oh, hello, PD Kim.
Hi, how are you? Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning. What were you getting ready to say?
Oh, this will be non-negotiated plea, Your Honor.
All right. State?
Your Honor, I'm confused. Are we doing Mr. Oren Warner, position 44?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, stated
34? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I
No,
called the
no.
wrong case. I thought it was 34. I'm sorry. 44. 44 and 45. I thought she's told me 34 and 35. So let me call the right case first. 24 CR 006899E, Oren Warner. And then 45 is 24 CR 007290E. Go ahead, State. I'm sorry.
Your Honor, this individual has 20 arrest cycles. He's charged in position 44 with giving false name. He's charged in position 45 with criminal trespass. Briefly, I'll go over his criminal history. He has a 2018 conviction for shoplifting, 2 convictions in 2018 for shoplifting, a 2018 FTA, a 2017 disorderly conviction, a 2017 criminal trespass conviction, and another 2017 shoplifting conviction, a 2016 disorderly conviction, and a 2013 criminal trespass conviction. In this case, Your Honor, in the first case, it happened on October 6th. He came into, officers were patrolling in the area of 2727 East Point. They observed the defendant laying on the ground at the entrance of City Hall. They approached him, asked him to leave the property. He was asked for his identification, and he gave the officers a false name. In the second case, the police were dispatched to 2139 Main Street in East Point. This is a BP gas station. He was trying to enter the BP and then remained on premises, being asked to leave. The defendant was blocking the entrance and the exit to the gas station and would not allow any customers to enter or exit. This was observed by police. He, again, would not leave the area. He told officers that he was not going to leave even if the business was closed. So the state's recommendation for the giving false name, Your Honor, is 12 months served, 28 days, credit for time served, 14 days, balance probated, and a $200 fine or 20 hours of community service. And then for the criminal trespass, Your Honor, the state's recommending 12 months served, 24 days, credit for time served, 12 days to run concurrent with position 44, balance probated, a stay away from the BP, and we are also asking for an MAGT. I'm not sure what the defense is trying to, what's non-negotiated about it, but if it's the MAGT, Your Honor, the basis for that is just his behavior at the gas station when he was refusing to let any of the patrons enter or exit the gas station. And for the false name case, Your Honor, in position 44, he was ordered to undergo a BHET at that point as well. So there's a concern that there may be some MH issues. Thank you.
All right, PD Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client wants to remove basically $200 fine or 20 hours community service. He does not have any income to pay for that, and he does not have a means to go to community service because he has no transportation. And instead of an MHET, we would like to request for BHET. So those are two things that he wants to change.
So what about the, is it MHET or BHET?
BHET. We have no objection to BHET.
All right. How old is he?
He is 30, hold on, 24, 39? 39 years old? I apologize, 31 years old. My math was wrong.
Oh, okay. All right, I will accept the plea as I have here. And we will go ahead and take the plea. Mr. Warner? So I understand that you want to plead guilty to both cases, is that correct?
I'm trying to figure out what's the conditions of me going home today. That's what they said, right?
Well, I'm not gonna tell you that in the sense you should be, but I don't know if you have anything else that's holding you. I don't like to tell people that if I'm not sure that that's what's going on. But you should be able to, and I don't know if it'll be today, tonight, or tomorrow. I'm not in control of that. That's up to the jail, some of it, as far as the exact time that you're going to be released. But before we even get to that, I need to make sure that you understand that you're pleading guilty to one count of giving false information to law enforcement and a second count of criminal trespass. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Your Honor, I
Mhm.
believe the confusion is this is a non-negotiated plea. The state is asking for him to serve 20 hours of community service or pay a $200 fine on position 44. The defense is arguing that he should not have to because of his residential challenges and his inability to get to community service. And the state's also requesting an MHET in position 45, and the state is requesting that he be sentenced to a BHET. So I believe before the defendant chooses whether or not he's going to plead guilty, Your Honor needs to decide if the fine or community service will be a part of the plea in position 44, or if the defendant is to undergo an MH or BHET in position 45.
All right, Mr. Warner, I'm going to order you to have an MHET. And are you willing to do the 20 hours of community service?
I'm not pleading guilty under these conditions, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I couldn't quite make out what you were saying. Say that again.
Personally not guilty in the case, so I will file a waiver of arraignment, Your Honor.
All right, waiver of arraignment.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right.
But Your Honor, actually for case 6899E, I believe that pretrial surrendered his bond. So I want to make sure that if we can reinstate the bond.
What was the bond?
Was $3,000 surety bond, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, that's your understanding as well, Ms. Delciano?
Your Honor, I'll check. Are you
Okay.
referring to position 44?
Correct.
An SOB that was surrendered, so now it's a surety bond, is that what we're saying?
Yes.
It looks like it's a $2,000 surety bond, Your Honor.
Okay. Because that's a $2,000 surety bond, PD Kim.
That's for position 45.
For
I mean, I'm
45,
sorry, 44.
44.
Right.
What about 45? Is it 1,000?
And 45 is. Yes, 1,000 surety.
Okay.
Total 3,000. Right. No problem.
Yes. So we'll reinstate the bonds on both cases. 2,000 surety on position 44. The false name, and on position 45 is a $1,000 surety bond on the criminal trespass.
Thanks, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
You.
If we could go back to position 10 and 11.
Yes,
Your Honor, can you hear me?
I can now.
Yeah, Xfinity is doing work in my area, my internet.
Your Honor and Mr. Bass, sometimes it helps if you turn off your camera. With Your Honor's permission, if he turns off his camera, sometimes that will help get him more bandwidth so he can be heard.
All right. All right, we'll allow that, Attorney Bass. So again, we have position 10, which is 23 CR 001818A, Ontario Hollis, charged with 1 count of battery family violence.
But he denied, so I have to have it.
PD, oh, okay. And position 11, 23 CR 007131A, with several charges there. So go ahead again, state. Or did you hear all of that before, Attorney Bass?
Yes, I did.
But we'll kind of repeat it a little bit in a summary for clarity of the record. But state, you can summarize a little bit if you'd like.
I can give the total, Your Honor. So
Okay.
the total is 24 months served, 180 days, credit for time served 3 days, no further contact with Rebecca Patterson, FVIP, no firearms, 40 hours of community service, anti-theft course, $500 fine, and 6 months license suspension. And the state is null processing the possession of marijuana less than an ounce on the case ending in 7131A. State sounds for Rebecca Patterson, and we do ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and identification for the purposes of this plea.
Your Honor, I'll state for the record, I did speak with Ms. Patterson by phone yesterday. She called me. I've had conversations with the two ASGs assigned to the case, James White and Ashley Lewis. My understanding, this was going to be a time served sentence, probation with time served. I'm hearing 180 days to serve now. Is that correct?
Do you have something in writing you can send to me that shows the memorialization of that offer from either Miss Lewis or Mr. White?
In writing, no, but that was the representation from them.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm not sure we can proceed at this point. I would recommend that we do a waiver of arraignment, not guilty, and send this to the trial line so they can discuss this or get something in writing. I personally love to get offers in writing so that way they're more enforceable, but I will leave that to the trial line to handle their own case.
All right.
All
And
right, for the record, I have emailed and called and left text messages with both James White, Ashley Lewis at the Fulton County Solicitor General's office. I've received no responses since the last court hearing. So I've been attempting to get it memorialized, but I've had no response from the attorney assistant.
Can you
Well-
send me one of those emails where you put your understanding of the offer in there?
can you
Mr.
do that?
Bass?
Oh, boy. Do you have his email, Deputy Falk? You need to just email him to waive arraignment and work it out. If they're
Yeah.
doing work in his area, I don't want him to hold us up. We keep waiting on him and Xfinity. Hopefully, no one else will have that issue. Attorney Bass. I don't think we could get through it if we tried.
I
I'm
did
so-
ask him to send me his email address and I'll communicate with him via email, Your Honor.
Right, let's do that and hold on that, and then reset to see what we need to do. And, Ms. Patterson, I'm sorry, we're not trying to waste your time.
That's okay. Was there anything that you guys need from me, informational wise about what I would like to see? as an offer?
Deputy Falk will speak to you about that.
Okay. Because I've talked to about 3 different people from you guys' office now, and I've given 3 different statements, and I'm not sure if it's getting to y'all.
And I do understand that you spoke with Miss Maldonado and you stated you would like no further violent contact.
Correct.
Ms. Patterson. Okay.
Right, but
So
no
we did
contact.
receive that
I never
information.
said that. I'm okay with contact for sure.
No, I understand. That is the state's recommendation, but we do understand your preference.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
All right.
So do I need to stay here or?
No, we're going to move on, even if the attorney comes back. If they're
Okay.
doing work in his area today, this is gonna be an ongoing issue,
Right.
so we'll
I didn't want to
reset it.
miss out, but I'm like at work. So if somebody could just let me know the resolution, that'd be great.
They
Absolutely.
will. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll
thank
have Miss
you.
Maldonado reach out to you, Miss Patterson.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Right.
Good morning, Judge. I have position number 18, Ms. Lee, in front of you at ACDC.
Okay. This is 24 CR 007264E Malikia Lee, charge of 1 count of battery.
This
None
will
is-
be, Your Honor.
All right. And I understand this is going to be a plea as well.
Your Honor, if you're ready, I can place the recommendation on the record.
Go ahead.
State's recommendation is 12 months served, 30 days, credit for time served 15 days from October 24th, 2024 until today, balance probated. No further contact with Sarah Thompson. Stay away from 1201 Brandley Drive in Conyers. 8 weeks of anger management, 40 hours of community service, and no firearms. We do ask the defense to stipulate to venue factual basis and identification for the purposes of the plea. I would like to put on the record that we have spoken with Miss Sarah Thompson. She said she will try to be on Zoom today, so we would like to sound for her, and she does agree with the plea offer.
All right, Ms. Thompson, Sarah Thompson. I do see someone signed in. Ms. Thompson?
Hi, this is Sarah Thompson.
All right, and the state is giving the terms of the plea, and your understanding is clear with that? Did you hear the plea terms that the state just announced?
Yes, I did.
All right. And
Um,
go ahead.
She is married to my son. So as long as she's not at my property, I'm okay with that, but I'm not sure how we would do that as far as she and my son being together. At some point, I would imagine we would be in the same vicinity. How could I handle that?
Ms. Thompson, are you requesting no further violent contact, or would you still like no further contact?
No further violent contact. Can you explain to me exactly what that means other than what you actually said?
Right. So no further violent contact just means that she can have contact with you. However, she cannot have any sort of violent contact. She cannot strike you, hit you, anything that would lead to additional criminal charges.
Okay, that sounds fine.
Okay. Your Honor, with Ms. Thompson's permission, I would modify the contact to no further violent contact, given the necessity of them having to interact because of her marriage to Ms. Thompson's son.
Okay.
We have no objection, and yet, can we not have a video? Is it gonna be okay for the record without video or testimony?
I keep asking her to start her video.
Right, and Ms. Thompson, can you start your video?
I keep asking her also, Your Honor, to start her video.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing that.
There you go. All right. And say that again, PD Kim, what did you say?
Do we not have to have a swearing or oath for her to testify that?
All right, Ms. Thompson, raise your right hand for me. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give or that you have given is the truth and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And what type of contact would you like with the victim? I'm sorry, with the Ms. Thompson is the victim. Go ahead.
As long as it's not violent contact.
All right, so we will change the plea for your son, and it is to have no further violent contact with Sarah Thompson.
Okay, you
I'm
said
sorry, I didn't mean son, I meant daughter-in-law. I'll get it together in a second. I apologize. Yes, is it Malikia?
Makaya.
Oh, Makaya. Oh, I wonder, is it spelled incorrectly possibly? Is it M-A-L or M-A-K?
I think it's M-A-L.
It is M-A-L? Okay.
Now, did you say that she would also get time served?
So Ms. Thompson, what will happen is it's 30 days, credit for time served 15 days. So as long as she has no other holds holding her in the jail, she will be released likely within the next 24 hours.
Okay.
All right. And so if we're ready to take the plea, Ms. Lee? All right, can you let's see, I don't, please say something again, Ms. Lee?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now we can hear you. I couldn't hear you at first. So it's my understanding that you wish to plead guilty to 1 count of battery, is that correct?
Yes,
ma'am. Okay, and so I'm going to ask you a series of questions to make sure you understand your plea, the conditions, and what you're doing with the court here today, okay? Are you presently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol at this time that would impair your understanding?
No.
All right. Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes.
That you're giving up or waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself? that you're giving up and waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer? And are you prepared and agree to waive these rights today? And has anyone told you that you would receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty today? Can't hear you. Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Okay, now I can hear you. Say what you were saying again.
Yeah.
Okay. And has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No.
All right. And so, do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected by this guilty plea today?
Yeah.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charge against you? And so as to the charge of battery, how do you plead? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so you understand the conditions. Is there still going to be the stay away from that address, Deputy Falk, as well? 1201 Brandley Drive?
Well, let me ask Ms. Thompson. Ms. Thompson, would you still like her to be able to come to your home address? Or would you like the stay away to also remain in place?
The only issue that I kept running into with her coming to the address is if I allow her to come and she stays like overnight or something of that sort, it's my understanding that she would be considered a resident and she would have to like live with me. That is not an option. I know.
Right.
It's
That is normally if the person stays with you for a period of time of 30 days, not one night. So yes, if she stays with you for an extended period of time, you are correct. That could cause a situation where you would have to evict her, but one night does not establish residency.
okay.
But if you would feel more comfortable with the stay away, we can leave the stay away in place. We're just trying to figure out what you would prefer.
Can I change that at any point? At any
No.
point in time?
This is part of the sentence. So
okay.
Well, after a certain period of time, no, it could not be modified. So we just need a decision whether you want the stay away to remain in place at this time, or you would like to have her be able to come to your home.
Okay, let's just leave it in place at this time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why don't we read those, state those conditions again, Deputy Falk? Or the
Yes, Your Honor.
sentence as
So
well?
the modification for the conditions would be 12 months served 30 days, credit for time served 15 days from October 24th, 2024 until today. Balance probated. No further violent contact with Sarah Thompson. Stay away from 1201 Brandley Drive in Conyers. 8 weeks of anger management, 40 hours of community service, and no firearms.
All right. And now you hear that kind of in a nutshell there, Ms. Thompson, okay? And
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Lee, you understand the conditions with your sentence, right?
Yes, ma'am. I just have one question. I'm not on probation after this.
Okay, I said if, right, and if you're not, then it doesn't apply to you, but have to at least let you know that.
Okay.
All right, and so you're still willing to plead guilty with those terms and conditions, correct?
Yes,
Okay, all right, and so, I will accept that plea. And Deputy Falk, we have the plea sheet. Have you already sent it to Ms. Strong?
Your Honor, for the purposes of court, the defense sends those in at the end of court.
Send them in at the end, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that is fine. All right, I am signing the sentencing sheet and because I haven't done this calendar in a while, and then probation will contact her.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Anything else that I need to take up, Deputy Falk?
Not to my knowledge, Your Honor. She will need to report to probation You can give her a specific date that she has to report to probation by a specific date, but she will have to report to probation. Probation will not necessarily reach out and contact her. She will need to report there.
Ah, okay. So, Miss Lee, you will have to reach out to probation. And I usually will try to give a date or, you know, within 10 days, but I can give a date to make sure that you do that. Where will she get that information from?
If you can just give her a before date.
Okay.
You want her to report before next Thursday, next Monday.
Yeah, give me what's next Monday.
No, next Monday is a holiday, so it'll be.
Oh, next Monday's a holiday, so let me,
So you want her to report on 12th?
yeah, on the 12th. 11/12, which is that Tuesday. Monday, I believe, is a holiday for the county, Veterans Day.
That is correct.
Right, so Tuesday, November the 12th,
Before 3 p.m.
before 3 p.m. And she has to report in person to the probation office?
Ma'am.
And I'll just go one step. Where will she get that address from?
It's 132 Mitchell Street. but
132 Mitchell Street?
I'm not sure if the jail gives them that information.
I'm not sure. Does the jail give them that information I dare not say.
No,
Ms. Kim, can you give her that information?
PD Kim, can you make sure she gets that information, please?
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, then that will conclude the plea. Thank you. And you're free to go,
David
Ms. Thompson.
is back.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
David
Thank you,
Bass.
Your Honor. Okay.
Mr. Bass, I tell you
Yes,
what,
I just
now,
wanted to be clear with the court that my internet with Xfinity is down until 11:30. I did not and would not hang up on the court. Just wanted to be clear on that. My internet is down. They're working on the line. I'm on my cell phone.
I understand, and you appear to be in a closet with a little bit of light coming behind you, so we cannot see you very well at all. That made it even worse, what you just did, because I can't see you hardly at all. I don't know. We were just going to, and Deputy Falk, you can let him know, we were going to just do that as an arraignment and get a waiver of arraignment and reschedule that so that they could get the information regarding the plea, or the correct information as to what you understood the conditions or the terms to be.
That is correct. And I have just messaged you directly to your phone to send me your email address so we can correspond offline.
Thank you.
Okay. Because I don't like to rush it if all minds are not clear.
Your Honor, my client was previously arraigned in Fulton County.
All right, then we'll just wait till we reschedule it or put it back on for a plea. Or if not, it'll go to the division judge to move further through the system. So Deputy Falk will follow up with you.
He's on bond. He's on bond. If you wanted to send it to the division, Judge Roth, I would not be objecting to that.
It's being returned to the division.
What did you say, Deputy Falk?
That's fine, Your Honor. State has no objection.
Okay, then we'll do that.
Thank you, Your Honor. I
All
have
right,
no further business.
Thank you. You're free to go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next, we can go to position number 9, Mr. Hemming. Position 9.
Right. This is 24 CR 007257A. Kill Hemmings. Charged with 1 count of criminal trespass. And this was to be a plea.
That's correct, Judge.
All right, Mr. White.
Good morning.
Good morning. State?
State's recommendation is 12 months served, 28 days. Credit for time served, 14 days. That is from 10/25/2024 to today. Balance suspended. Stay away from the Bryant Buckhead Village Apartments at 400 Far Road Northeast. We do ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and identification for the purposes of the plea, and that's all for the state.
All right. Mr.
Your
White?
Honor, Your Honor, we so stipulate, we just asked for a one-time police escort, back to the apartments. He does have some property there.
State has no objection.
All right. And we will add that one-time police escort. Mr., let's see, where is he? Mr. Hemming?
In the courtroom too.
Okay. All right, are we ready to take the plea, Mr. Hemming?
We're ready, Judge.
All right, where's your client? They're next to PD Kim?
That's correct.
Okay, I was making sure.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Hemmings, can you hear me?
Sure.
All right, and I understand that you wish to plead guilty to one count of criminal trespass today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I'm making sure, I'm gonna ask you some questions, a series of questions to make sure that you understand the plea, the terms and conditions of that sentence before accepting the plea. And so I will ask you these questions, okay?
Okay.
And so understand that you want to plead guilty to one count of criminal trespass, is that correct?
Correct.
And I need to ask you, are you currently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, alcohol, or drugs that would impair your understanding?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are you satisfied with the services of your attorney?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay. And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up and waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes.
You're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and testify and not testify against yourself.
Yes.
And you understand that you're giving up or waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer.
Yes.
And you prepared and agree to waive these rights today, is that correct?
Yes.
Has anyone told you that you receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
Can you repeat that for me, please? I don't hear you.
Has anyone told you that you will receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty today?
No.
Okay, and has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No.
All right, and do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected because of the guilty plea today?
Yes.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charge against you?
Yes.
And as to the charge of criminal trespass, how do you plead?
Say what?
As to the charge of criminal trespass, how do you plead?
Guilty.
All right. So I have that, and you understand the terms and conditions of this plea. You're to stay away from that Bryant Buckhead Village Apartments at 400 Far Road. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Making sure. So do not go back there. But I am giving you a one-time police escort to go back to retrieve any of your personal belongings. So do not go back there alone. Once you are released, you need to go to the police station and coordinate an escort for you to go over there to get your belongings, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome.
Good luck. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Position number 32, Pfeiffer.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor, this will be a negotiated plea.
This is 24 CR 007249Y, Mercedes Pfeiffer. State?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is for count one, 12 months concurrent with count two, a $300 fine or 30 hours of community service. For count two, 12 months served 30 days, credit for time served 15 days from October 24th, 2024 to today. Balance probated. No further contact with Willie Tremble. Stay away from 1443 Vesta Avenue. 8 weeks of anger management and no firearms. For count three, it'll be time served 30 days, credit for time served 15 days. And for count four, the marijuana, the state will be entering a null pros.
All right.
The defense to stipulate to venue factual basis and ID for purposes of the plea, and if Your Honor can sound for Mr. Willie Tremble.
All right. Mr. Willie Trimble. I don't think I see anyone on. Oh, I do. Mr. Trimble? Willie Trimble. He signed on. Mr. Trimble?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Turn on your camera for me, please.
Can you see me?
Not really. But we'll move along. I have called this case and you are the victim in this case. And do you have any questions or want to make a statement at all?
I just wondered why she took my car keys.
ASG Delciano, do we have any issue on that, or he needs his car keys back, or?
I was not aware of an issue with that, Your Honor. If there's, he may be referring to the incident. If he's speaking about the incident, then he can talk to our victim advocate about that, Your Honor. What the state's most concerned with at this point is if he's in agreement with the plea offer that was read.
Did you hear the plea offer, Mr. Trimble?
Did I hear it one more time?
Your Honor, or I'm sorry, Mr. Trumbull, the state's recommending that essentially the defendant not serve any more time in jail. However, she will serve on probation for a period of 12 months, minus the time that she's been in jail. Part of the conditions of her probation will be that she'll have no contact with you and stay away from 1443 Vesta Avenue and complete anger management. She also won't be allowed to possess any firearms during her period of probation. And there's an obstruction charge, and the state's recommending that she pay the statutory fine or complete community service for that count. For purposes of you, though, are you okay with what I've read? And
yes, I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and Ms. Pfeiffer, you're clear and have an understanding with the plea. Are you ready to take that plea?
There was never anger management or any probation, so.
Oh, I know there was probation, but let's talk about anger management.
There was never any anger management that was told to me yesterday.
And you represented PD Kim?
Yes, I showed the paper. It says anger management is AM. Initially, we talked about it, but is this something that you would like to take, or if you don't want to take, we can plead not guilty? Do you want to call me and discuss?
Because they have, with the conditions, you would have to take 8 weeks of anger management courses. So do you want to accept the plea as offered or not?
Yeah, it just wasn't offered to me yesterday, so I don't know.
Well, but it's not what I'm asking you, yes or no? The 8 weeks anger management was included in the plea. And so, you need to tell me yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you a few questions here, before accepting your plea. And make sure you understand what you're doing today and that it's free and voluntary. Are you under the influence of any unprescribed
No.
medication? I'm sorry?
No, ma'am.
Okay, let me read my questions first because this needs to be part of the record. So are you presently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your understanding?
No, ma'am.
All right. And are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up and waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
You're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're giving up and waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you prepared and agree to waive these rights today?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone told you that you receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
And do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected by this guilty plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
So as to the charge of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, how do you plead?
Guilty.
As to the second count of simple battery, how do you plead?
Guilty.
As to the third count of disorderly conduct, how do you plead?
Guilty.
And as to the fourth charge, possession of marijuana less than an ounce, how do you plead?
Guilty.
Oh, I'm sorry, that one is gonna be no pros, correct? That one's gonna be dismissed, I'm sorry. So it's just the three charges, the fourth one is gonna be dismissed, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. And so, again, you understand that you're going to be on probation and you will report to probation by Tuesday, November the 12th. And, PD Kim will give you that address on Mitchell Street. So you have to report or else you can be arrested again, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, which one is she doing, the community service or the?
Oh, yes. Are you doing the $300 fine or the 30 hours of community service? Which are you doing?
30 hours of community service, but I need to understand more about this probation and this anger management.
Well, you're going to be on probation till you complete the conditions. So you have the 30 hours of community service and you have the,
Hey, y'all stop talking.
8 weeks of anger management. You're to have no firearms. So those are the two conditions that you have to complete, while you're on probation, and you have 12 months to do all that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And then you're going to also have a probation fee to pay while you're on probation, all right?
Okay.
Okay. All right, and she'll give you the address as to where you need to report on 11/12. Okay? All right, if there's no other questions, I think we are complete.
We got a position number 24, Mr. Meyer.
All right, this is 16 CR 003955E, Chad Meyer. Is going to be a plea?
It is, Judge.
Okay. He's charged with, 1 count of DUI, 2nd count driving while license suspended, and 3rd count of failure to maintain lane. State?
Your Honor, the state's recommendation for count one is 12 months, served 16 days, credit for time served 8 days from October 31st, 2024 to today, balance probated, an alcohol and drug evaluation and follow any recommended treatment, DUI risk reduction, a $300 fine, 40 hours of community service, and 1 victim impact panel. Count two, the driving while license suspended. The state's recommendation is 12 months concurrent with count one, a $500 fine, and a 6-month license suspension. And count three, the failure to maintain lane, time served 16 days, credit for time served 8 days. We'd ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and ID for purposes of the plea. Nothing further.
Judge, we stipulate for purposes of the plea. I do want to address a couple of tweaks. As far as we would like to enter a NOLO plea to the driving on a suspended license. As Your Honor noticed, this case is more than 8 years old. And so we're asking for a NOLO on the suspended license charge. Also, I don't know that a 6-month license suspension need necessarily be added to probation. I think the Department of Driver Services would has their own scale of suspension. And Mr. Meyer does live in Florida, so we're asking that he be allowed to report to probation by phone or mail.
Your Honor, no objection to the NOLO. As far as the license suspension goes, PD White is correct. It is through DDS. It's on the plea sheet, so the defendant's aware that his license will be suspended. However, it's an automatic thing through DDS. So if it doesn't need to be on the paperwork, then that's fine, as long as the defendant understands that.
And it would be suspended for the DUI as well, so.
Right.
So those 2 suspensions that run concurrent?
They do, Judge.
Okay. And we'll change the driver's license suspension is to be a NOLO plea?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll talk to Mr. Meyer, make sure he understands what he's pleading guilty to. Mr. Meyer, you ready to plead guilty, I understand?
How you doing?
I'm fine, how are you? And are you ready to plead guilty today to the 3 charges?
For the most part, I would like to. I'm just considering that, like Mr. White said, the charges are 8 years old, and
Mr. Meyer?
That wasn't my question.
Yes, Mr. Meyer, do you want to accept the offer or not? If you don't, or you need more time to discuss it with me, we can do that. But the case is not going to get dismissed, as we discussed earlier, not at this point.
all right, I'll accept.
Okay.
You want to accept the plea? All right. And so I'm going to ask you a series of questions in order to make sure you understand what you're doing today and before entering into this plea, all right?
Okay.
Okay. First question is, are you presently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your understanding?
No.
Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes.
And that you're giving up or waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes.
And that you're giving up or waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes.
And are you prepared and agree to waive these rights today?
Yes.
And has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone told you that you will receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected by the guilty plea today?
Could you repeat that again, please?
Do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected by the guilty plea today?
Yes.
And so do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charges against you?
Yes,
And as to the DUI, how do you plead?
guilty.
And as to driving while license suspended, what is your special plea to that?
My special plea?
It's NOLO.
NOLO? So are you pleading NOLO to the driving while license suspended?
NOLO.
No, no contest plea. And then the failure to maintain lane, how do you plead?
I believe that's also NOLO.
No, that one we understood was guilty. It was just a NOLO.
Actually, the FTA should merge into the DUI.
The failure to maintain lane,
The fatal,
ASG Delciano.
Your Honor, it's time served. It's a separate charge.
well,
I don't know
it
about
is,
the
yes,
lane.
without it, they don't have a DUI, so it's a lesser. It's a lesser
It's
included.
absolutely not a lesser included of the
Of a
DUI.
D- I was waiting on the state, but I didn't mean to make a face. I apologize.
I was thinking through that. I've never heard that before. I'm like, that wouldn't.
No, I haven't either.
Typically, the traffic violation will merge into the DUI charge for as long as I've been doing this, because without the traffic offense, you don't have a DUI.
So it sounds like this entire plea is non-negotiated at this point, because if we keep tweaking everything about this plea, it is non-negotiated. I'm sorry to intervene, but I mean,
Well,
at this point,
I am
you are
too,
just
Ms.
going
Falk.
full non-negotiated plea.
Ms. Falk, are you handling this case or is Ms. Desiano?
Ms. Desiano is, but I'm intervening because I'm the supervisor in this courtroom.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Judge, as we said along, we asked this is a negotiated plea. We're not asking to change any of the terms of the plea. That's what we just asked for, a no on the license. And I would ask that the failure to maintain lane merge, because that is what's happened for the last 25 years in Fulton County, typically on these cases. But if the court is not willing to do that, then we'll go forward as is. It's not that big a deal.
All right. I was not accustomed, but again, if the state is not willing to acknowledge or state that the failure to maintain lane charge merges into the DUI, so that there would be 3 counts, 2 that he's pleading guilty to, the DUI and the failure to maintain lane, and then the second count is a NOLO plea. So that is what I understand is on the table. You all correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
The position is that that does not merge.
Okay. And so, Mr. White, is your client still willing to go forward?
Yes, Judge, we are still willing to go forward.
All right. And so, Mr. Meyer, you understand that we have 2 counts of guilty plea, which is the DUI and the failure to maintain lane, and then the third count, the driving while license suspended, is a NOLO plea. Is that your understanding?
To my best knowledge, Your Honor, yes.
Okay, and you understand your conditions, you will be on probation. You have to do an ADET, which is alcohol and drug screening, comply with any conditions that they may determine are necessary. You have to take a risk reduction class, $300 fine, 40 hours of community service, and 1 victim impact panel. Do you understand that?
To the best of my knowledge, Your Honor, yes.
All right, and so I will accept the plea as stated, and you will have to report to probation by November the 12th. It's a Tuesday after the holiday.
He didn't live there.
Oh, that's right, you're in Florida, I just forgot. And we will let you call in by that date. And Mr. White, hopefully you will get that information, you probably already know it. For him to be able, I will allow him to be able to call in.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. So make sure you do that and get that information as soon as you get out so that you won't miss the deadline to call in by 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 11/12. All right? Okay. All right. I will sign off on the plea. And that will conclude this case.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Number 33, Pitt.
It's at 17?
Number 33, Pitt.
Oh, 33, 33.
Yes, Your Honor, this will be a negotiated plea.
And Ms. Kim, I do have a quick announcement for you. Do have a question.
Sure.
Once you're done, one of the clients want to speak with you. Position number 32, Ms. Piper.
Sure.
All right, this is 24 CR 007245E. Is it Mynesha Pitts, charged at 1 count of theft of lost or mislaid property? State?
Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months served, 32 days, credit for time served 16 days. That's from October 23rd, 2024 to today. Balance probated, no further contact with Christopher Russell, an anti-theft course, and 40 hours of community service. If Your Honor can sound for Mr. Russell the appropriate time, and we'd ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and ID for purposes of the plea. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Russell. Let's see, do we have anyone signed on? I don't believe. Mr. Russell? All right. Ms. Pitts? Okay. All right, understand that you wish to plead guilty today, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that is to the 1 count of theft of lost or mislaid property, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you heard the conditions for in the terms of while you're on probation, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so I will take that plea from you. I don't believe the victim is here. Christopher Russell. All right, I'm going to ask you a series of questions to make sure you understand what your plea is and that you are voluntarily entering into that, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, first question is, are you under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol at this time?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're giving up or waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are prepared and agree to waive these rights today, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty today?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone told you that you will receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty today?
No, ma'am.
And do you understand that if you're on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected by this guilty plea today? And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charge against you?
Yes, ma'am.
As to the charge of theft of lost or mislaid property, how do you plead?
Guilty.
All right, I will accept your guilty plea, and you will have until Tuesday, November the 12th at 3 p.m. to report to probation on Mitchell Street, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So you can get that address from your attorney, PD Kim, so that you will have time to report, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If there's nothing else, then you will be free to go.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. And for Ms. Kim, is it best that you call her or are you gonna come see her?
I can come see her on the way to my office.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have position number 26 and 27, Ms. Daisha Moore.
All right. Ms. Moore?
I was not able to speak to Miss Deja Moore, so I need to go to a breakout room to talk to her.
Oh, you need to talk to her first.
Yes. Or she can call at courtroom 2. Maybe we can talk.
I don't have a phone, we gotta do a breakout.
Yes, ma'am. Breakout room, please.
Okay.
I guess at the end, because we still have about 4 people here at the courts.
All right. Ms. Young will put you in a breakout in a second.
Your Honor, I'm gonna log into on my laptop and then maybe I can go to another room. So that way I can have a more confidentiality.
Oh, correct. Yeah, we don't want you to do that.
So,
And if we can go to another position while Tim is in the breakout.
yes.
Okay. You said position 10.
No, well, I said while Tim is in the breakout, but we could, it's position 3 and 4, Mr. Bland.
Okay. It's 22. 22, 24. 3 and 4. Oh, I had 23 in my brain. All right, Mr. Bland, I have 23 CR 006618F. And then I have 24 FTA 001654 for Devontae Bland. State?
Yes, Your Honors. Recommendation for position 3 is 12 months served, 36 days, credit for time served, 18 days from 10/23 to 10/24/2023 and 10/23/2024 until today. Balance probated, a $200 fine or 20 hours of community service, whichever the defendant chooses. And we would ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and identification for the purposes of the plea. On position 4, the state is entering a null pros upon the plea on position 3.
All right, Mr. White.
Judge, we stipulate, and he's selected the 20 hours of community service.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bland.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I understand that you want to plead guilty today. Is that correct?
Yes, but I have one thing I want to ask you.
Quickly.
I've been incarcerated since the day I got locked up for this, and I only have a failure to appear because I guess no one came and got me for court. I was in Cobb County, and I'm just trying to
Well,
see.
it kind of, I'm going to cut you off. They are dismissing that case once you plea, so that charge will be dismissed.
Okay, and if that's the case, then why can't I just get time served? Why do I have to get probation?
Because you have a fine and community service that you have to do and are pay, and you're on, and you have to be on probation until you complete those conditions.
So I can't wait to.
But he did give you credit for time served. But you still have 2 conditions, a $200 fine and 20 hours of community service. So you have to be on probation while you're completing those terms.
And Your Honor, just to clarify, it is just going to be the 20 hours of community service. The state has no objection to terminating.
Oh, I'm
after
sorry,
you
not, it's
complete
either
that.
or. I apologize. I said that wrong. It's not both. I apologize. It's just the 20 hours of community service. I'm sorry.
And Mr. Bland, as we talked about yesterday, the sooner you get it done, the sooner you be off probation.
Right, so if I do it in 1 month, it terminates in 1 month?
Correct.
The state will agree to terminate after he completes the community service.
I was just getting ready to ask, okay? So it will terminate, okay?
Yes.
All right. So let me ask you a series of questions if you're ready to take your plea, all right? The first question is, are you under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol at this time that would impair your understanding?
No.
All right. Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up and waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're giving up and waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are prepared and agree to waive these rights today?
Yes, ma'am.
And has anyone told you that you will receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
And do you understand that if you are presently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected by the guilty plea here today?
Yes.
All right. And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charge against you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so as to the count of giving false information to law enforcement, how do you plead?
Guilty.
Okay. All right. I will accept your guilty plea and the other charge is being dismissed. So just remember, you'll be on probation until you complete your 20 hours of community service and then it will terminate, okay?
Ma'am, can I call in or do I have to? Cause I live in Cobb County.
Oh, you live in Cobb County? State, do you object to him calling in?
We don't object.
Okay, we'll allow you to call in to probation, but listen to this, you have to call in and report by Tuesday, November the 12th at 3 p.m. Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Your Honor.
thank you.
You haven't seen the bill, right?
I'm sorry, Deputy, what did you say?
Position 13 and 14, Mr. Jones.
Okay,
Oh. You're on not position 14 and 13. You can go to position 12, Mr. Jenkins.
okay.
Will.
12, Jenkins. This is 24 CR 0072588, Jonathan Jenkins. Is that you, Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, state.
Recommendation on count 1 is 12 months served 30 days, credit for time served 15 days from October 24th, 2024 until today. Balance probated, ADET, DUI risk reduction, $1,000 fine, 240 hours of community service, victim impact panel, ignition interlock device, and drug and alcohol screening. As far as counts 2, 3, 4, the state's recommendation is time served, which is the 30 days, credit for time served 15 days. We do ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and identification for the purposes of the plea. That's all for the state.
And Judge, we stipulate to a factual basis. We would ask, and I'm sure the state's going to object, that the ignition interlock be removed. His license is going to be suspended for a year anyway. So by the time he has to have an ignition interlock, probation would be over. So if you're going to have him get an ignition interlock for a car that he's unable to drive for a year anyway.
So again, is this a negotiated plea or a non-negotiated plea?
We are entering a plea and asking for one tweak on the sentence. So
well, I guess the
however you
only,
would like to define it, Ms. Falk.
Right. I think it would just be beneficial for everyone going forward if there is a thing that the defense is asking for a change on the plea negotiation, that it just be done prior to court and you just let us know via email that you want to change.
If I'd ever gotten a response to anything that I've asked for prior, then that would have happened.
Oh, okay, BD White. Anyway, if you're going negotiated, the state is not dropping the interlock device.
So, Judge, we would ask that you consider dropping the interlock device based on the fact that he's going to have a suspended license for a year. He's going to be on probation for less than a year. By the time he could drive anything, who's going to enforce the ignition interlock? They may try to force him to get an ignition interlock on a device that he can't, on a car that he can't drive anyway, which would cost about $300 a month.
State, I don't know what the history is, which is what's making me curious as to why, and I'm sure there's something there as to why that interlock was part of the plea.
So the defendant has 28 cycles. He has his most recent convictions were a probation violation in 2021, a DUI in 2020 out of Douglasville Municipal Court, where he received a $1,459 fine, 40 hours of community service, 24 hours of confinement, and 11 months and 29 days of probation. Prior to that, there was another probation violation in 2008 where he received 8 months. So this is his, it looks like, second DUI in 10 years. Actually, second DUI in 5 years, which is the basis for the state's recommendation being what it is.
And Judge, we're not denying that there is, just logically, it makes no sense to put an ignition interlock on a vehicle that he can't drive for a year anyway. He's only going to be on probation for a year. So what is the point? He has a suspended license for a year.
The point is, as we know, many people drive on a suspended license. You know, many people drive on no license. And so to make sure that because he has the history, I understand why it was, put into the terms, because he probably drove previously on probation to get this DUI.
And Your Honor, I would like to point out this is his 4th DUI in a lifetime. He has also his 5th DUI in a lifetime, and he does have previous suspended license convictions.
So with all of those, with all of that information and that history, Mr. White, I'm inclined to ask that he, and leave that in the terms, the ignition interlock be added to that vehicle.
Okay, Judge.
Okay. All right. So we will keep the terms as they are. And Mr. Jenkins, you understand and you're ready to plead guilty to this plea with the terms that we've just stated, including the ignition interlock? Do you understand that?
I do understand, Your Honor. I do have one question, however, that I can't seem to get a clear answer on. Is I have a Class A CDL license, and I'm getting different time frames on the suspensions. So I'm hearing today it's 12 months. Yesterday, Mr. White, who came and spoke to me, he told me
No, Jenkins, Mr. Jenkins, I told you your normal driver's license would be suspended for a year. I was not certain on the length of time on the CDL. It would be at least a year, potentially longer.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I'm not dealing with your CDL. That once they get that information, I'm sure they'll tell you, or if they pull your record, then they'll let you know. Slightly different terms on the CDL, but I don't have anything to do with that. Those rules are those rules. So you'll be subjected to that, and I don't believe we're negotiating anything about your CDL. I know we're not. I don't say I believe. So that's, like your attorney has told you, that's going to be a little bit separate gray area for you to see what they tell you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on your commercial license.
Yes, ma'am. And the car itself is impounded. I'm pretty sure I've lost my job. If the car stays impounded and I never get the car back, I still have to put the interlock where?
Well, you can't put the interlock on the car that you don't have in your possession. State, are we tweaking the language at all to say he should put an interlock on any vehicle that he has in his possession. Cause here's the thing, Mr. Jenkins, some people have multiple cars or they go and buy another one while they're on probation and then, oh, well, this wasn't the car that was a part of the order, so I'm going to drive this one in violation. And, you know, you may get picked up and that'll solve itself. But we just want to make sure with the history that you have, which is not beautiful, that you understand you are not to get behind a vehicle at all. And if it's one that you own or that you have possession of, because it could be your wife's, it could be your daughter's, it could be your cousin's, that any vehicle that you have possession of, it should have the interlock on it. Okay, so Deputy Falk, you know, if he's
Fine
lost,
with interlock on any vehicle that the defendant is operating.
okay. Because you know, I don't want to belabor the issue with you, but with your history, do you understand why the trust factor is not there? Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, let me ask you a series of questions to make sure you understand what you're pleading to and the conditions that will be placed upon you. The first one is, are you currently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol at this time that would impair your understanding?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up and waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're giving up and waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are agreeing and prepared to agree and waive these rights today, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And has anyone told you that you will receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
And you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected because of this guilty plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charges against you?
You.
All right. And so again, as to the charge of DUI, less safe, how do you plead?
Guilty.
As to the charge of driving possession of open alcohol container, how do you plead?
Guilty.
No side mirrors. How do you plead?
I'm sorry. So I'm getting 4 charges, all adding up.
There are 4 charges, yes.
We discussed it yesterday. The other 3 charges are all time served.
Yeah, they're time served, but you're pleading guilty to all 4 charges.
Yes, ma'am. Guilty, ma'am.
All right, and headlights not turned on?
Guilty.
All right, I will accept your guilty plea to those 4 charges, and you understand, and you can discuss with your attorney those conditions, especially with the interlock, ignition interlock. You have to complete a alcohol, drug, and evaluation, risk reduction, $1,000 fine, 240 hours of community service, 1 victim impact panel. So you understand all those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. That will complete the plea. And I'll sign the paperwork for you. And you need to report to probation by Tuesday, 11/12 at 3 p.m. All right, and get that information from your attorney. Make sure you report. All right, anything else?
Nothing from the defense, Judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We have position number 22, Mr. McIntosh.
Okay, I'm sorry, Deputy, who do we have?
Position number 22, Mr.
22?
McIntosh.
Okay.
Yes.
This is 24 CR 007273H, Benny McIntosh, charge of 1 count of criminal trespass and damage to property. State?
The state's recommendation on this one is 12 months served, 28 days, credit for time served 14 days from October 25th, 2024 until today. Stay away from the Economy Hotel at 4264 Shirley Drive. 12 weeks anger management or MHET, whichever the defendant chooses, and restitution will remain open for 30 days.
All right. Mr. White?
Judge, we stipulate factual basis for the purpose of the plea. I have a question about the restitution up for 30 days. Does that mean we're going to have a hearing within 30 days?
Potentially, if we are provided restitution by the victim.
Okay, but they
But
would
if the
actually,
victim does not provide restitution, the case will be closed without restitution being asked.
obviously, I understand that point, but if the victim comes to you with restitution, is there a hearing?
Yes, if the defense does not agree to the restitution amount.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that
Yep.
it wasn't just whatever they ran up and said, oh, he owes X amount of money, and then
No, she would,
took her word for it.
right,
Okay.
she would inform you first, and then if you agree, fine. If you don't, then there'll be a hearing.
A hearing. Yep.
Right. All right.
Nothing further, Judge. And we just ask the probation, then go to non-reporting or terminate once he completes all of his requirements.
All right, we'll go to non-reporting. 22. All right, Mr. McIntosh, are you ready to take the plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, gonna ask you a series of questions, make sure you understand what you're doing here today, okay?
Okay.
First question is, are you under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your understanding?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up and waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
You're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
That you're giving up and waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you prepared and agree to waive these rights today?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone told you that you will receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
And has anyone, I think that I already asked, told you that you receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am.
All right, and do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be affected or terminated because of this guilty plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charge against you?
Yes, ma'am.
As to the charge of criminal trespass and damage to property, how do you plead?
Guilty.
All right, and so you have those conditions, you've got to stay away from that Economy Hotel, but the 12-week anger management or MHET? And Mr. White, you said he was going to do what?
The 12-week anger management, Judge.
Okay, all right, so you have the 12-week anger management. Once you complete that, and depending on restitution, we'll see, then you can go non-reporting for probation, okay?
Okay.
And so you have to report to probation though by Tuesday, 11/12 at 3 p.m. and your attorney will give you that information. Huh?
I gotta go to another county.
You
I gotta go to Carroll County.
you don't live in Fulton County?
No, I gotta go.
He has a hold.
Oh, he has a hold. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So within 10 days of your release, then you can report to probation.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just put it that way and not give you a date, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right. Yes, Mr. White?
Judge, no, we're good.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you, Judge.
Mhm.
Donna, we can go to position number 43, Mr. Wallace.
Ma'am.
Right, 43, Mr. James Wallace.
Ma'am.
Okay, this is 24 CR 007232E. Charge with 2 counts, state.
Excuse me, Your Honor. State's recommendation is 12 months served, 30 days, credit for time served 15 days from October 24th, 2024 to today, balance probated, stay away from all MARTA in accordance with the permanent ban that he was issued last year, no further contact with Mariana Cruz Esquivel, an MHET, and no firearms. Count 2, 12 months probation concurrent with count 1. We'd ask the defense to stipulate to venue factual basis and ID for purposes of the plea. And if Your Honor can sound for the victim, nothing further.
All right. Mariana Cruz Esquivel. Don't think I see anyone on with that name. All right. PD Kim.
Yes, we stipulate for the purpose of the plea, and that's it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Wallace, are you ready to take your plea?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, make sure you understand what you're doing here today, okay?
Ma'am.
All right, first question is, are you presently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your understanding?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
You're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Ma'am.
You're giving up the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Ma'am.
And you are prepared and agree to waive these rights today, is that correct?
Ma'am.
Has anyone told you that you'll receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
And do you understand that if you're on probation, it could be affected or revoked because of this guilty plea today?
Ma'am.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charge against you? Charges?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So as to the charge of simple assault, how do you plead?
Guilty, ma'am.
As to the charge of criminal trespass, how do you plead?
Guilty, ma'am.
Okay, all right, and so you understand the victim that you need to have no further contact with, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other condition is to stay away from all MARTA. So you're going to, you have a permanent ban that was issued last year. So you should not be anywhere near MARTA. You're gonna have to take Uber or Lyft or something else. But you've got a permanent ban from MARTA. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I'm aware.
Okay, all right. So you will be on probation while you're completing the other terms. You have to have an MHET and no firearms. And so you reside in Fulton County?
Ma'am, from Fulton County.
Okay, so you will report to probation by Tuesday, 11/12 at 3 p.m. Okay. And so you report to their office on Mitchell Street. PD Kim will give you that information and then get started on your conditions, okay?
Ma'am.
All right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
I have position number 40.
All right.
This will be negotiated plea, Your Honor.
Okay. This is 24 CR 007234H. Roy, is it Viveder or Vivetter?
Viver,
I'm sorry?
Roy Viver.
Oh, Viver. Okay, sorry
ma'am.
about mispronouncing your last name.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, you're charged with 1 count of theft by shoplifting, 2nd count willful obstruction. State?
Your Honor, state's recommendation for the shoplifting is 12 months served, 30 days, credit for time served, 15 days from October 24th, 2024 to today. Balance probated, stay away from the Kroger at 2685 Metropolitan Parkway, a $500 fine and an anti-theft course. For count 2, 12 months probation concurrent with count 1, and a $300 fine or 30 hours community service, whichever the defendant elects. We'd ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and ID for purposes of the plea, nothing further.
All right.
We stipulate, so I believe he chose 30 hours of community service.
Okay. All right, and so, Mr. Say your last name again for me.
Viver.
Viver, are you ready to plead guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. First,
Yes, ma'am.
first one being, are you presently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your understanding today?
No, ma'am.
All right. Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
You're giving up or waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you are giving up the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you prepared and agree to waive these rights today?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone told you that you receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am.
And if you're on probation, you understand that it could be revoked or affected because of this guilty plea today.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, as to the charge of theft by shoplifting, how do you plead?
Guilty, ma'am.
As to the charge of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer, how do you plead?
Guilty, ma'am.
All right, and you do have some conditions here. And I'm going to have you to report to probation by Tuesday, 11/12 at 3 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
And your attorney will give you that address on Mitchell Street. And I guess once you complete the terms, will it be terminated or go non-reporting, State?
Your Honor, either is fine.
All right, so once you've completed all the terms, we will let you let your probation terminate, okay?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And he chose the community service, correct?
And you chose the community service, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's 30 hours of community service.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
For the first one was the fine,
I'm sorry.
but the first one is the fine.
Oh, and the first one, it's a $500 fine for the shoplifting charge,
Yes, ma'am.
okay?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, all right, and that will complete your plea.
Would I be going home today?
As soon as the jail processes you out, as long as you don't have any holds within 24 hours, you should be released.
Do I have any home? Yeah, I'm
I
just,
don't know if that person knows, because that's probably not the one that's gonna be running it. Someone in administration will do that now that they know that you're eligible to be released. So they will run your GCIC again.
yes, ma'am.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you, yeah.
Next, we can go to position number 13 and 14, Mr. Emmanuel Jones.
Okay,
13 and 14, Your Honor.
gotcha. This is 24 CR 004220C, Emmanuel Jones. And 14 is 24 FTA 001667.
Judge, just an additional case, under 13, you'll see add-on 24 CR 001517C.
Oh, I see.
So he is entering a plea to both of those. He did ask that he be allowed to enter a NOLO, but we'll get to that.
Okay. On the 24 CR 001517C, and that's a criminal trespass charge as well.
That's correct, Judge.
All right, go ahead, State.
Yes, Your Honor. And I'm just looking up to see if he's used a NOLO in the last 5 years. If he hasn't, the state doesn't have an objection to him using a NOLO on one of these cases.
Okay.
There's no legal effect anyway.
Thank you so much for that, PD White. So as I do not see that he has used NOLO in the last 5 years, so he is eligible. The state's recommendation on the criminal trespass is 12 months served 28 days, credit for time served 14 days from June 28th to July 2nd of 2024 and October 30th, 2024 until today. Balance probated, stay away from the CVS at 2907 Main Street in East Point. 20 hours of community service, excuse me. On the add-on, which is ending 1517C, the recommendation is 12 months served 2 days, credit for time served 1 day, March 30th, 2024, balance suspended on that case. Stay away from CVS at 2907 Main Street in East Point. The state does ask the defense to stipulate to venue factual basis and identification for the purposes of the plea. And on position 14, the state is entering a null pros upon the defendant's acceptance of this plea.
All right, Mr. White.
We
your
stipulate,
understanding? Go
we
ahead.
stipulate, Your Honor.
All right. And
We
so,
do ask the probation go non-reporting or terminate once he completes the 20 hours community service on the first case.
State
Okay.
has no objection to non-reporting.
non-reporting,
Yes.
And which one is he using?
he's using the NOLO on the one ending in the add-on one, yes. 517C. All right, Mr. Jones? Yes, I'm gonna ask you a series of questions to make sure you understand what you're doing here today with these pleas, okay? First question is, are you currently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your understanding today? Okay, and are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney? Can you move a little close?
Can you hear me?
Now, I could hear you better then.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
All right, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're giving up or waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself? You understand that you're giving up that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You're giving up the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
No.
And you are prepared and agree to waive these rights today, is that correct?
No.
Has anyone told you that you'll receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, ma'am.
And do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation may be revoked or affected because of the guilty plea here today? And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charges against you? All right, and so again, as to the charge of criminal trespass, how do you plead?
No law.
Yeah, and then you have another charge that you're pleading guilty to, is that correct?
No, ma'am, I was trying to plead NOLO to both. Am I able to plead NOLO or is?
I didn't have NOLO for both.
You can plead NOLO to one, certainly. I do expect the state to object to you pleading NOLO to both of them.
Okay, all right.
Okay. And so, and then the FGA or the failure to appear is going to be dismissed upon your plea to the other two. You understand that?
Well, I was trying to figure out what the LTA was for, because I'm not familiar with what that was for.
That's, like we discussed yesterday, you missed court on one of the cases.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, right, all right.
Okay. All right, all minds are clear. I will accept your plea, okay? And your probation will go non-reporting once you have completed the terms. But the bigger one is to stay away from that CVS,
Yes, ma'am.
okay?
All right.
All right. Oh, and I'm sorry, one last thing. You need to report to probation on the 12th, which is a Tuesday, next week by 3 p.m.
Okay, well, will I be able to, is it monitor probation?
Until you get the community service completed.
Okay. And I'll be able to get paperwork for this?
When I don't know. Mr. White will have to tell you that.
You just have to report to the probation office at 132.
Well, I'm saying, to like write it down or something, like to have.
I will print and then give it to him.
Yeah, okay.
No problem.
That works.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
thank you.
I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Next, Your Honor, we can go to position number 5. Mr. Davis.
Okay,
David.
this is 24 CR 007253F. Raphael Davis, charged with 1 count of theft by deception. State,
Yes, Your Honor, state's recommendation is 12 months served 30 days, credit for time served 15 days. From October 24th, 2024 until today, balance probated, stay away from the Western Union at 5015 Old National Highway, anti-theft course, 40 hours of community service, and $810 restitution to Western Union located at 5015 Old National Highway in Atlanta, Georgia, 30349. The state does ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and identification for the purposes of the plea. That's all for the state.
all right.
Judge, so stipulated. We just asked that he be allowed to report by phone or mail. He was in the process of moving to California.
All right, report by phone.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, you ready to take the plea?
Talking to you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, no problem. I just wanted to get some clarity on one situation, that's all.
Okay,
Like as far as the probation is concerned, I will be released today after taking this plea, correct?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with your probation. As we discussed yesterday, if nothing's holding you, and as far as we can tell, there's nothing holding you, you'll be released within the next 24 hours, maybe tonight, probably tomorrow morning.
Okay, Your Honor, Judge Massey, I'm ready to enter the plea. If everything's on record is as it should be.
Okay, yeah. Judge, I believe we're ready to proceed.
okay. All right, Mr. Davis. Are you presently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your understanding?
Okay, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
That you're giving up or waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
And, the right to, that you do have a right to go to trial by judge or jury, but you're waiving that today, whichever you would have preferred.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor, that's correct.
And are you prepared and agree to waive these rights today?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
And has anyone, told you that you will receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No, ma'am, I was told about what's already been negotiated.
Now, has anyone told you that you receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
He said no, Judge.
Okay. And, do you understand that if you're currently on probation, it could be affected or, revoked because of the guilty plea here today?
I understand.
All right. And so, you understand the conditions, but do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charge against you?
Yes, ma'am.
So as to the charge of theft by deception, how do you plead?
Guilty.
All right. That will complete your plea. You said that you live out of state, is that correct?
Judge, he's in the process of moving to California.
In the process of moving?
Yes.
So once you move, we will let you report by phone and they'll explain that to you. All right? But as long as you're here, you've got to make contact with them by the 12th of November, 11/12 at 3:00 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
All right. That'll
Thank
do it.
Thank you, Mr. White.
You're welcome.
Second row. Yeah, we can go to position number 38, Mr. Rice.
Okay.
North.
This was a negotiated plea, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Rice,
Yes,
this is 24 CR 007250C. Is it Lynn Was?
Rice.
Lynn Was Rice. Charged with 1 count of simple battery, family violence, 2nd count theft by taking, misdemeanor. State.
Your Honor, state's recommendation is 12 months served, 30 days, credit for time served 15 days from October 24th, 2024 to today. No further contact with Jamie Smith. Balance probated. No further contact with Jamie Smith. Stay away from 2767 Treadway Drive in Decatur. Family Violence Intervention Program, 40 hours of community service and no firearms. For count 2, 12 months concurrent with count 1 and an anti-theft course. We'd ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and ID for purposes of the plea, and if you're under consent for Jamie Smith.
All right. And, Mr. White, is that your understanding?
This is my client, Mr.
Oh,
White.
I'm sorry, PD Kim.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, we stipulate. So, Your Honor, after he completes those classes and community service, can the probation be terminated? He's been in jail for the last 15 months.
Yes,
Thank you.
would terminate probation upon completion.
Thank you.
And I think that is it.
And Your Honor, for the record, if you can sound for the victim, Jamie Smith.
All right, is Jamie Smith here? All right, we'll keep going. All right, if there are no other questions, Mr. Rice, I'm gonna ask you, I've asked you the questions. Or I haven't.
Let me-
All right, are you presently under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol at this time that would impair your understanding?
I am not.
Okay, are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Of course, no.
All right, and do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes.
You're giving up or waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes.
You're giving up and waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes.
And so again, you are prepared and agree to waive these rights today, is that correct?
Yes.
And has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone told you that you receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty?
No.
And you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected by the guilty plea here today?
Yes.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charges against you?
Yes.
All right, and so how do you plead to simple battery family violence?
Guilty.
And how do you plead to theft by taking?
Yes.
Okay, I will accept your guilty plea. And again, it will terminate upon you completing the conditions such as the community service.
Okay, but look, like. All right.
All right. There's nothing else. Your plea has been accepted. All right, thank you. Who do we have left?
That's all for quorum too, Your Honor.
Okay.
Announcements.
Right. You keep talking to me.
Your Honor, question number 26, 27, Dasha Moore. It is waiver of arraignment and plea not guilty.
Okay, on 23 and 24, you said for the Kim?
26 and 27,
Oh,
Moore.
got that. Okay. So we're just gonna plead not guilty and do a waiver.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That is Daisha Moore, Miss Moore. Okay, all right, I have that for 26 and 27. All right. Have anybody left?
No, Your Honor.
What about position? Thirty-six and 37?
It will be waiver of arraignment, not guilty.
Okay.
Okay, the previous announcement was bond hearing. No bond hearing?
No bond hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
Which one was it?
36 and 37.
It will be heard at the division judge.
Okay. And I guess that's it.
Yes.
And then the competency calendar.
I'm here for the competency calendar. We will need Mr. Bartels, and I see Kia is here as well.
Okay.
And what about position 47?
Oh, yeah, 47 is, Mr. Patel.
that's mine as well. Yeah, I got one over here.
No, what did I do?
This one a little bit higher up. Okay, are we ready to start the competency calendar, or we can do 47 on the SAP calendar?
Your Honor,
Uh,
just so the PDs who are here and the ASG who is here who aren't handling competency can be released, I would appreciate if we could just wrap up the last of the cases on the SAP calendar first.
Right. Let's do, is it 47?
47, yes, I'll be handling that, Judge.
Okay.
He's in medical, but I don't believe there are any issues that affect him being able to understand what's going on.
All right. This is 22 CR 0000584F. Pedro Williams. Charge of 1 count of simple assault, 2nd count of disorderly conduct. State.
Your Honor, is the defendant appearing? It's my understanding this was a non-negotiated plea.
Well, I guess we can talk about that while we're waiting for him to appear. The one aspect, we're in agreement with the sentence, except the no further contact. He indicates that they have a child together, and we're asking for no further violent contact. Has the state been able to contact Ms. Cade?
Your Honor, so we have not been able to confirm if she's okay with no violent contact. This incident did take place in 2021, so it's been some time. It's my understanding from the defendant's bond order, it was a bind-over case and there was no prohibition on contact in full candor. However, the state recommended no contact based on us being unable at this point to confirm if she's okay with no violent contact. Our victim advocate did reach out to her again this morning via text message, and we have not received a response back at this point. Mr. Bartels, were you able to get in touch with her?
Well, the numbers that are in the discovery, they're not current for her because that's 3 years old. I did get an updated number at a place where she's staying, but I was not able to reach her today.
Okay, we have the same issue, Your Honor. We have, I believe, 3 phone numbers for her. 2 of them are not in service, and 1 of them is in service, and we have texted her and called her and asked for her to call back. We're just waiting for that. So, you know, we understand this case is 3 years old at this point, Your Honor, so we'll leave it in your discretion as far as contact's concerned. Understanding that throughout this time that this defendant's been on bond, there hasn't been a prohibition on contact.
Right, and also, well, I guess, I don't know if this is a disagreement, but the address 178 Maury Avenue, they no longer live there. So, you know, I mean, that's not an issue, but I don't see that would be needed.
Okay.
Okay, I think we can just wait until he shows up.
You said wait until, I didn't hear you.
Oh, well, I think he should be showing up soon. But those are the concerns we would have about the sentence.
Yeah, I'd usually be inclined to do no further contact since we haven't heard from the victim, and you know, if she has several numbers, you can't get in contact, maybe that's purposeful.
Well, my understanding, Your Honor, is that she's staying in a group living arrangement. And I did talk with the manager of that, and he indicated that she medically was not able to talk to me. I think that's all I can say now.
All right.
And it did happen, 3 years ago. And I think Ms. Desiano is correct. There was no
prohibition against contact in the original bond. And apparently there was a failure to appear because he wasn't aware of the court date. And I was not able to find any kind of prohibition on that bond as well.
Mm-hmm. State, you're inclined to put no further contact?
At this point, Your Honor, just because we haven't heard from the victim, that's our position at this point. However, we understand it's an old case and there's been no prohibition before.
And I've been advised that they haven't had any further difficulty.
Mm-hmm. I guess, it's got with 8 weeks anger management, 40 hours community service, no firearms. You don't know any more about the relationship, if any, Mr. Bartels?
Well, I've been told that they're engaged to be married. That's what my client advises.
According to the warrants, Your Honor, they were dating in a dating relationship at the time this incident occurred in 2021. If it gives you any kind of context to make a decision, this is an incident where there were neighbors who had called 911 to the location because the neighbors saw the defendant chasing the victim around their apartment complex. They were arguing about something, and she essentially locked him out of her apartment, and he entered in through a window, and they were arguing. And that's the basis for the charges, Your Honor.
There's no allegation of any kind of physical contact or threats.
All right, well, oh, do we know, do they have any children together?
I believe they have at least one, Your Honor.
Yeah, I just don't want to say, well, no further violent contact. Usually I do that if I've at least, heard from the victim or the state has some inclination for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would want to let him know this when he joins. But if the court's inclination is to no further contact, I think it would be up to him whether to accept that or whether we could reset to Tuesday to see if either party could get in touch with Ms. Cade. But
Yeah, Sharon, I would suggest the same. If we can't get in touch with her, and if you're not inclined to allow violent contact or no violent contact, then we would ask for a reset just so we can try to contact her again. And it sounds like Mr. Bartels has gotten in touch with someone who can get in touch with her.
yeah, Ms. Desiano, the number that you have, does it end in 3749?
Let me just see. What's the last four?
3749.
No, that is not one that we have. Hold on. Well, that's not the one that was in service that we tried. Can you chat me that number?
Yeah, this one is really hard to and I can go over to my email and just email it to you. I think that would be better.
Or if you can just read it into, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret or anything. It's 470-983-3749.
Thank you.
Thank you. But yeah, let's wait until he appears. Mr. North, do you know if medical is bringing him? 47 Williams. Are they just going to put him on a camera? Which Williams? Pedro Williams. He's 47. Yeah, I'm asking Deputy Norris if we can expect them.
Okay.
What happened to 30 and 31?
Let's see. Nothing. I asked him about that. Any information on 30 and 31?
There will be actually, Your Honor, actually, the jail officers at the front at Rice Street not find him. And we do not know where he is located, so I still have to interview him.
Miss Kim, I looked him up on the jailing this morning and he was released on the 5th is what Odyssey says.
Okay. Got it.
All right, 30, 31's released. Okay.
And Judge, it looks like our victim advocate has called that number and has gotten a hold of her. So hopefully we'll have an answer one way or another.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bartels, for that.
You're welcome. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm told Mr. Norris is going to go get him now, Judge.
Okay.
I guess we got all the other cases. This,
Your Honor, if while we're waiting, perhaps if we could just go over the calendar while
Okay.
we're waiting for this last defendant.
Okay. Make sure we got them all. Hold on 1 second.
You want me to do it?
Yes. Oh, wow.
Can you hear me? We can hear you.
I can, okay.
Position number 1 and 2 waived arraignment, reset jail jury. Position number 3 was a plea. 4 was null pros. Position number 5 was a plea. Positions number 6 and 7 are reset further notice, defendant was released. Position number 8 was waived arraignment, reset jail jury. 9 was a plea. 10 and 11, reset jail jury. 11 was reset jail jury. 12 was a plea. 13 was a plea. 14 was null pros. 15 and 16, waived arraignment, reset jail jury. 17, waived arraignment. 18, plea. 19 and 20, waived arraignment, reset jail jury. 21, waived arraignment. 22, plea. 23, reset for SAP, November the 16th. Position 24 was a plea. 25, reset SAP, November the 14th. 26, 27, waived arraignment, reset jail jury. 28, reset SAP, November the 14th, also for position number 29. 30 and 31 were released, reset further notice. 32 was a plea. 33 was a plea. 34 and 35 reset November the 14th, SAP. 36 and 37 waived arraignment, reset jail jury. 38 was a plea. 39 waived arraignment, reset jail jury. 40 was a plea. 41 and 42 released, reset further notice. 43 was a plea. 44 and 45 waived arraignment, reset jail jury, with the bond reinstated on both cases. Position number 46 was reset for SAP competency calendar on November the 14th, and 47 were holding on.
All right. And we're holding on 47.
PD Bartels? I'm sorry,
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your conversation with your client. I just wanted to let you know that the victim is okay with contact. We did get in touch with her.
okay.
All right, so, yeah, Judge, I think we can probably proceed.
Well, there's no further violent contact.
Yes, and she is no longer residing at that other address, and there's no stay away needed anyway.
Okay,
And like I said, we're in agreement with the rest of the recommendation.
all right. And so is it Pedro Williams, 22 CR 0000584F?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
All right, and it's 2 counts, 1 count of simple assault, 2nd count of disorderly conduct.
Right.
All right, go ahead, state.
Your Honor, state's recommending 12 months served, 22 days, credit for time served 11 days. That's from August 12th to August 14th, 2024, and then October 31st, 2024 to today. Balance probated, no further violent contact with Chanel Cade, 8 weeks of anger management, 40 hours of community service, and no firearms. And count 2 will be 12 months probation concurrent with count 1. We'd ask the defense to stipulate to venue, factual basis, and ID for purposes of the plea. And if Your Honor can sound for Miss Chanel Cade, for the record, our office has spoken with her this morning, and she did say that she wanted no further violent contact with the defendant.
Okay, Miss Chanel Cade. Miss Cade. All right.
And Your Honor, we would just ask the court to accept the negotiated plea. I know that before Mr. Williams came on, the court did get a brief outline of the facts of the case, and we will so stipulate to venue and identity in a factual basis for the purposes of the plea.
All right. And so, Mr. Williams, are you ready to take your plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And so let me ask you a series of questions and make sure you understand what you're doing today. The first question is, are you under the influence of any unprescribed medication, drugs, or alcohol that would impair your ability to understand?
No, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the services and representation of your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up or waiving the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're giving up and waiving the right to remain silent and not testify against yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that you're giving up and waiving the right to trial by judge or jury, whichever you prefer?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you prepared and agree to waive these rights today?
Yes, Your Honor.
And has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty today?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone told you that you receive a lesser sentence for pleading guilty today?
No, Your Honor.
And do you understand that if you're currently on probation, your probation could be revoked or affected because of the guilty plea today?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you offer this guilty plea freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of the charges against you?
Yes, Your Honor.
As to the charge of simple assault, how do you plead?
Guilty.
As to the charge of disorderly conduct, how do you plead?
Guilty, Your Honor.
All right, I will accept the plea and you understand the conditions that you have. Let's see, the 8 weeks anger management, 40 hours community service, no firearms. And you need to report to probation
132.
by Tuesday, 11/12, Tuesday, November the 12th at 3 p.m.
Yes, Your Honor.
And your attorney will give you that address and information regarding probation.
Your Honor, we would just also ask that he be able to go non-reporting once he's completed the requirements.
All right, he can go non-reporting once he's completed the requirements.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Your
Thank you.
Honor.
I'll get you that information.
And then make sure we have no further contact with the victim, Chanel Cade.
No further violent contact.
I'm sorry, no further violent, no further violent. All right,
Yes, Your Honor.
all right, I think that'll conclude it.
And thank you, Your Honor. That's all my business. May be excused.
Yes, you may. See you next time.
Thank you, Judge. Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad we could work it out. Like I said, we may be out today.
Your Honor, I believe that just leaves the competency calendar.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
we need to be put in a breakout room for the competency.
I'll get mine.
Yeah.
I don't know the phone number there, but they never answered. Yes, sir. That's fine.
Oh, Miss Young,
Yes, ma'am. Who needs to go in the breakout room, Your Honor?
me, Deputy Falk, and who else? Kia Burgess. Yes. Hi, Miss Burgess.
Okay, I'm doing it now, Your Honor.
I was like, who is that? Oh, that's you.
So we're done with SAP, Your Honor?
Yes, we're closing out SAP. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. This is JC.
Oh, yes. Oh, and I'm sorry, Miss Carter, you're gonna talk about me too. How are you doing?
You finished with me too?
Yes, you can go too.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Huh? So what?